Well, hello, Excel 2020. Thank you all so much for joining us for this important discussion on ways that we in the retirement plan industry can work together to combat the paycheck to paycheck reality that roughly 78% of American families face. I'm Nicole Hinman, Senior Director of Retirement Plans at Cambridge Investment Research. I'm pleased to be joined today by Brad Ahrens, co-founder and CEO of IntelliSense, Holly Knight, Director of Retirement Outcomes with Sapers and Wallach, and Don Waite, Director of Financial Wellness Services with Duncan Financial Group. Boy, oh boy, 2020. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? And it's not even over yet. If the ongoing pandemic has shown us anything, it's shown us how unprepared the vast majority of American workers are for unexpected financial emergencies. 40 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits between March and August. And I can only imagine how scary of a time it was for those families who were living paycheck to paycheck before the layoff. What do their financial situations look like now? When it comes to financial education, at least for adults anyway, we know that if any financial education is going to be found, it's going to be found at the workplace, right? Through maybe a formal workplace financial wellness education program, or just through the periodic education provided by that company's retirement plan provider or advisor. We all play such a critical role in helping American workers prioritize, plan, and save for tomorrow. But are we doing enough? Given everything that we've been through together as a country this year, this really just seems like the right time to just pause for a moment, and look at the way that we currently engage with plan participants and look at the type of education and guidance that we provide. I think maybe we can do better. I know we can do more than just encourage participants to save all they can for retirement. The time is right now, to transform the way that we work with plan participants to help them get out of that paycheck to paycheck existence that they've been suffering through and stressing over day after day. So, how about we start right now? Before we dig in, though, I'd like to take just a few moments so that you can get to know our panelists. So, Brad, let's start with you. What should we know about you?
I've been basically doing this since almost the advent of 401k. I came back and joined a family business back in 1984 after I was graduating from law school, and immediately I was put to work converting our defined benefit plans to 401k programs for our clients, which the vast majority of them did. So I've been here since the beginning, and it's been an interesting evolution of the 401k plan.
Indeed. Holly, how about you?
So my name's Holly. I work for Sapers and Wallach in Newton, Mass. I haven't been in it quite as long as Brad, but I have been in it quite a while. And I cut my teeth in the industry in 2008 as a independent wealth manager. So it was, you learn a lot, and the industry has shifted a lot, I would say. The retirement plan side of the business, I've been doing that for the last 5 to 6 years. But education is something that I've been doing for all of my adult life. I have a master's degree in education. I've taught at every level from preschool up through executive ed and financial ed. So I think when it comes to the paycheck to paycheck crisis that we're going through right now, it comes back to education, and it comes back to accountability. And I think there's a lot of great programs out there. I'm excited to kind of talk with this panel today, because I know there's some good ideas, and hopefully we can start that momentum shift towards a more sustainable workforce.
Yes. And Don, to you.
I haven't been in the business as long as Brad either, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So, sorry, it's just a tagline joke of mine. I've been about 6 years involved with employee financial wellness with our clients, and it's a real passion of mine. I believe very strongly that people should have somebody that can help guide them through this morass we call financial wellness. And that's what it is. I saw over the weekend, I saw just a great line. Nicole, you were talking about 2020. It said, 2020, stop right here. I'm going to get off and walk the rest of the way. So, and that's what it's been like, for all of us. It's been challenging times. And this whole pandemic has shown us how ill prepared so many people are for this financial wellness thing that we talk about. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all so much for coming together today to do this. Really appreciate it. So let's get started. All right. When we look at the typical suite of employee benefits, we know it normally includes, some type of health insurance, maybe a flex spending account, a health savings account, maybe life insurance, long-term disability, short-term disability, and then some type of employer-sponsored retirement plan. And these are great benefits. They're all vital, certainly attractive to employees, but none of them really address the overall financial well-being of an employee. And we all know that a financially stressed employee is not nearly as productive at work as they might be if they weren't freaking out over their finances every day. So Brad, let's go to you on this. What's standing in the way of employers offering holistic financial planning services as an additional benefit for their employees?
Well, I think ironically, when you really go through your list, Nicole, the typical American today does get the vast majority of their financial needs taken care of at their place of employment. And you went through the list there. And for the typical American, that's the vast majority of it. However, when you look at this notion of financial planning, well, just take us as 401k advisors. I think we're talking about the difference between today's money and tomorrow's money. When you look at us as 401k advisors, we're typically dealing with tomorrow's money. Our message is consistently, we're trying to create a mountain of money for a person to be able to live 20 to 30 years in retirement. That's tomorrow's money. When you really look at some of these problems, however, they're problems in today's money. And that's what Corona has exposed, is that the typical American is not financially healthy. They don't have the skill set or background to put a budget together. Their debt load is way beyond what would be recommended, and most of them do not have enough money to handle a $400 unexpected expense. And we as 401k advisors, we've really never addressed this because that's today's money. And we're leaving that to financial planners who, for the most part, aren't dealing with the typical American. They're dealing with the owner of the business. I mean, they're in great shape because the personal wealth people have taken care of those people. But when you look at the typical American, the 99% of the rest of them, they have kind of been left behind. And even in the education system has left them behind. They weren't taught this as they were going through, junior high or high school, or even if they, and when they got to college, they just didn't major in something like this. And we just haven't brought it up to employers to make this financial planning an employee benefit, because quite frankly, I know in our firm until recently, we didn't have the skill set to do it. I didn't have a single CFP on my staff. I do today. And as a result, we're changing how we approach this. But the typical high-end 401k advisor is not a CFP. And if he is, it's hard to put out an A paper if you're a CFP and you're doing both financial planning and 401k. That's very, very difficult is what we found. So I think that's one of the fundamental problems right there.
So lack of emergency savings, no formal budget to speak of, overwhelming credit card debt, student loan debt. There are so many things competing for our paychecks every day, and there's so many things standing in the way of participants adequately saving for retirement. So a lot of times we see financial emergencies being addressed through 401k loans or hardship withdrawals. Holly, why aren't more advisors engaging with participants on these issues?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say, first of all, I think there are some advisors who are doing this. We're seeing that more and more. But to your point, I mean, typically that's not what we're seeing. This industry, we've been, taught. Our industry has been taught predominantly to be focused on investment returns, right? But now we're starting to see this shifting paradigm towards more goal-based advice. And so that shift is going to change how we deliver our service. And it's kind of interesting. To what Brad was saying earlier about today's money versus tomorrow's money, I remember very vividly, like thinking about this about 4 or 5 years ago. I was doing an education meeting for a group that was a bunch of warehouse workers. So these were, blue collar, third shift workers, and I'm up there and I'm talking to them about, increasing their contributions to the 401k, and I remember looking out at this like blank slate of faces, and I'm thinking like, what? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty engaging most of the time. So I'm like, what is it that I'm not understanding? And when I broke it down and started talking to folks, it was like, Holly, I can't increase my contributions because I'm in debt. I'm in the red every month, and I'm using my credit card to pay my mortgage. So, and I remember it was just one of those moments for me where I thought, oh my gosh, we've got this wrong. We should be talking about, financial budgeting and savings and all the other aspects of someone's financial life, not just their 401k. But typically that's what we've always kind of known. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part is scalability, right? So a lot of advisors are thinking it takes a lot of time and energy and support to do the education with participants, sustainable education. I mean, I think we all do one-off educations here and there, but to have a sustainable practice, it takes time. And many folks would, as Brad mentioned, they want to stay with that 1% or that higher percent because they have assets that they can actually work with. But that being said, I think that's not good enough. If advisors want to stay competitive in the 401k business, I think they have to. Employees are asking employers for it. Everybody is talking about financial wellness. And I will say the coronavirus, this pandemic, has put it under a big spotlight. So if you were already financially stressed before, this could have been enough to fracture that for you. And then it's panic. And I see that not as an individual problem, that's a collective problem. And to what you said earlier, Nicole, I think our industry has an obligation. We have the resources, we have the skill and the experience to do it, but it needs to be done. And I think we're probably in the best position to do that. So,
yes, amen. So then why should we care, really? Don, I read recently that 40% of Americans would have to sell something or borrow money to cover a $400 financial emergency. So for plan advisors out there, what difference should it make to that advisor if 40% of the participants in the plan that they're managing would have to sell something or borrow money to cover a $400 financial emergency? I mean, really, why should they care?
It should make a huge difference to us. We talk a lot over this period in time. We hear a lot, we talk a lot about our fiduciary responsibilities to our clients, that we want to be sure that we offer the correct investments for the risk tolerance that they have as an individual, or where they stand age-wise in their life or their investing cycle. I submit that fiduciary responsibility has to go beyond the investments to their lives, to their individual circumstances. Can they afford to put money into the retirement plan? Can they afford to just subside on a day in, day out basis? As Holly said, you found so many people that are using their credit cards to pay their mortgage. If we as advisors can help them through that stage of their lives, when they really don't have a lot of money to invest, they're going to become a lifelong client of ours because we've helped them overcome a huge issue in their lives. And when they are ready to invest, we're the ones that they're going to want to invest for, because we're the ones that care about their lives. And obviously you have to do that legitimately. You can't just care about it so you can get their money. You have to care about it because you want an outcome for them that is the right kind of outcome. That's, I believe, and we approach it as though that is our fiduciary responsibility, to be sure that they can pay their bills before they invest for their futures. As Brad said, we need to be concerned about their today money, but their today circumstances. You have to have a solid foundation on a building before you can build a building that won't collapse. And if you do that, the outcomes can be great. If you don't do that, then somewhere along the line, they're borrowing money from their 401k, they're transferring jobs, and they have to cash it out because they need the money to pay their bills. That's not a good outcome either. So I think we have a lot of responsibility beyond just their 401k or their retirement accounts.
Thanks, Don. Now, it's probably not realistic to expect every single plan advisor to suddenly become a debt counselor or a financial coach for every single participant that they take care of. There's just not enough hours in the day to do that. But I would suspect that technology can play a really big role in helping us help participants develop good habits around systematic savings, budgeting, debt management. Holly, what are your thoughts on technology? How can technology help us engage with participants to develop actionable plans designed to break this paycheck to paycheck cycle? But what's more, how do we justify the cost of that technology to advisors and to plan sponsors?
That's a great question. I mean, technology, I think, has catapulted us forward, right, in this digital wave. It's kind of remarkable when you look at the different waves of technology in different expansions. The digital wave is it's incredible. New things are coming out all the time. So there's definitely a ton of resources available, tools, online apps, things like that. On an individual basis, I mean, I will say, so I teach at the University of New Hampshire. I'm an adjunct professor there as well. And I always talk to my students, because as Brad mentioned earlier, we don't do enough with education early. So I do talk to the college kids about this. And I actually was talking to them about, what do you guys use? What kind of technology do you tap into? And they told me about an app called Digit, which is, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's just an app that will systematically take out pennies to a few dollars every single day out of your account, and then it just automatically puts them into a savings account. And so these college kids were saying it's great because I don't even know that it's gone, and I went on spring break with that money. So I mean, definitely priorities are probably a little different, right, with college kids, but the point being, I mean, they're learning that, that there are ways that you can do that in a systematic way. This comes down to behavioral finance, right? So technology is a great way to kind of help cheat the system, I guess, a little bit. On a plan, when you're looking at a retirement plan, there's also many different platforms out there to address this. Now, we've done education. Many financial services firms do education, and we'll continue to do one-offs on specific to the 401k and things like that. But we were definitely feeling like we weren't quite hitting the mark. When you do an education meeting and you don't see them again for a quarter or 6 months, then you lose stuff, right? And it's just not a very sustainable practice. So we sat down as a team internally and spent about 3 to 4 months kind of talking about what is it that you would want to see as if I was a participant in a plan, which I am. What would I want to see as a participant, and how would I want to use technology? So when we had that list, we went to the market and we found a platform that gives us all of that. So the technology is fantastic. It's driven through an app. They can go online and do things as well. It's gamified. It's fantastic. But the key differentiator for me, I believe, is the accountability factor. If you look at a lot of our record keeper partners, not a lot of them, I think all of them have some type of financial wellness program, chassised on to the retirement plan that, participants have access to. One of them who's a big player, huge. Now, we have one client with them. We have 1,000 participants with this particular client. And out of those 1,000, 14 people actually clicked on the wellness program through this record keeper to, check out the financial wellness. 14. Now, is it because the technology is bad? I don't think so. I mean, they've got the money, the resources, and the expertise to build something big and beautiful, right? So it's not what they have available. It's how do you get people to engage with it. So that tells me that it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you have. If there isn't some type of accountability, then it's too much. It's overwhelming for people. And if they don't know, the basics, which we know from experience that, most participants don't, then it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles they have, right? It's like if you're going to build a house and the builder says, okay, here's what we're going to do, draws up the plans, and then you go to the site and all the materials there with a guidebook and says, okay, go build your house. That's crazy. We wouldn't be able to do that. Well, it's kind of what we're asking participants to do. And, we all know that, when we're overwhelmed, we do nothing. So technology is a great way to, and this platform that we're using is fantastic because it gives you all of that streamlined, centralized, data gathering. So it's very measurable. It's easy to kind of report on and follow and track. But the accountability of sitting down with an advisor that's systematically done from quarter to quarter, and then benchmarking their progress from year to year is really where I think it's going to make a difference. So I think we need to kind of do a marriage of the two, of technology and the advisors, because there's a lot of robo advisors out there that are fantastic too. So this isn't, I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, but depending on where you are in your money journey, you might need a little bit more help. And so I think that accountability factor is a huge one. But the technology and that together is, for us, we're really excited. We think it's going to move the needle.
Thanks. Stay on the technology side of things. And Brad, I planned on going to you next because I know that you and your team at IntelliSense have incorporated technology into your practice to build a scalable and repeatable process. But we got a question submitted through the chat that I thought went well with that question. So the question was, how can the concept of financial planning as an employee benefit be delivered efficiently to very large employers who have many employees in multiple locations? So maybe you could talk about how your team has used technology to build that scalable and repeatable process, and perhaps if you have clients with multiple locations, how you're reaching those employees at those locations. Oh, you're muted, Brad.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm going to also kind of address, there's another question there that talks about the importance of CFPs if you absolutely have to be one. The way we're approaching it is we are abandoning the technology that record keepers provide because it doesn't matter what the record keeper is, you've got less than 5% of the people going out to it and engaging. There has to be people attached. We call it people smarts plus great technology. So it's very, very important. Towards that end, I think that to make this successful, I'll tell you what we did. We had to go out. We didn't have any CFPs. We do now. We have 6. 3 years ago, we had 0. What's their job? Their job is to help us deliver. Our retirement people, their job is to get people to retirement. They're doing the group meetings on how to use the plan to accomplish what that goal needs to be. They're helping the participant define that goal. We do one-on-ones with our retirement people, consultants and relationship managers, and they are focused on getting a significant amount of money for tomorrow's money. We had to bring on staff, people who could deal with today's money. And If you're not a CFP, eventually you're going to get questioned. It's not like you can't give good advice without being a CFP. You can. But I believe today that if I were giving advice to new people entering into this space, what initials do you want behind your name? The three most important letters are CFP. That's what I tell people, because these people desperately need help. They do. And you're going to have to approach this with a team. That's what we're doing at Intellicence. So that we have our team for retirement. We have another team that does group insurance. And now we have a team of, we call it personal financial management. It's a team of advisors that work in private wealth. And the vast majority of those are CFPs. How do you deliver this in bulk? Here's what I envision. It's really tough when you're building this from scratch. And, we just got hired by a 1,000-life employer who's testing this. I mean, they're testing this on 20 employees where we're doing holistic, comprehensive financial plans for those. But we've also built technology that allows us to deliver what I call a robo financial plan, with just a download of participant data, including age and wage. With that, we can deliver a robo financial plan, a foundational financial plan, which will deal with what your maximum debt load should be, what you should be striving to attain in an emergency fund, the basics of what a budget would look like based upon your income, how much life insurance you would have. Are you on track to have enough money at retirement based upon your age and your wage? Is it perfect? No, but we can deliver that for every employee for that 1,000 life group. And it looks at what we have data on. That's age and wage. And if we have their 401k account balance or their group life, that helps, but it's not mandatory. We can deliver something based on age and wage. And what's it designed to do? It's designed to get them to think and say, okay, this is just based on my age and my wage, but they don't, Intellicence doesn't know anything about my spouse's benefits or their retirement plan, doesn't know about this 100 acres of great black dirt Iowa farmland that they might own, or an apartment complex that they might own, or 401ks from a prior job. It doesn't know anything about that. But you know what? That's not a bad thing, because then what's it prompt that participant to do? It prompts that person to go back to Intellicence and say, okay, I need more. I need more than what you've given me. I understand you just did this based upon what you knew, but now I need more. And I want that holistic, comprehensive, integrated financial plan that looks at all of these things. And now we're building the team of CFPs that can deliver that. What do I envision? I think 5 years from now, we'll have 20 CFPs. And we'll actually, there's a lot of universities today where you can graduate in financial planning with a financial planning degree. I think we'll have a phone bank of CFPs that is manning the phones, taking questions from our clients that have this service of employee benefits, and then actually giving them advice and extra guidance, pointing them in the direction that they need to go. And while they're not giving that advice, they're actually creating CF or financial plans for those participants that want more there. So I think you've got to build this with proper technology, but you also are going to have to put the team together to do it, the people. It's very important.
Okay, so everybody wants to know what technology platform you all are using for this. So before we move on, would you be willing to share what you're using?
Sure. We built that robo financial plan ourselves. I mean, we did. I can tell you that we're not going to have to do that for long because we went to eMoney, who provides our financial planning for our clients that want a robust financial plan, and they are coming out with an app that will just do that. It'll be something that's actually distributed by 401k advisors, and you can take it out to your clients, and it can take a download of data from the participants so that when that is given out to every employee, they log in, and when they log in, they're already there. It already has that robo financial plan that's there because it's taken that download of data from the employer, and that robo financial plan is there. And then it's got account aggregation built into it. So if that participant will go in and, basically allow the aggregation of their spouse's 401k, their checking account, their annuities with an insurance company, their mortgage, you got to put your debts in there too. It will have the ability to do all of those things in addition to then prompt and encourage those people to add more. I mean, obviously, it won't know about the good, rich Iowa farmland or whatever, but it will then be able, there'll be a library in there of articles that when it sees that Holly, for example, is having an issue with a certain financial problem, it will know that. And through artificial intelligence, it will start to feed Holly articles and games that will prompt different behavior there. So I think these technologies are not something that we're going to have to wait for 5 years. Just this Holly's already got a piece of technology. This from eMoney's coming out, and it's going to be available first quarter of next year. It's already being betaed. I mean, our firm is one of the beta tests for just employees of Intellisense, but it's already being betaed with other plan sponsors. So I'm confident that there's going to be that and other options come down the pipe.
Holly or Don, or both of you? What about you?
I'll start, and Don can probably also contribute because our firms are using the same technology platform. So it's called WellSense, and it's essentially, just to give you like the 10 or 20-second view of it, participants take an assessment. The assessment takes 4 or 5 minutes tops. It's not very complicated. Once they've completed the assessment, it gives them a score out of 100. And that's like their benchmark score. They can see in 4 pillars, 4 distinct areas where they may be struggling or might have challenges, and whether that's personal finance, it's investments, it's retirement readiness, estate planning, right? So in those 4 areas, it gives them a score. From there, just as what Brad was just saying, I'm pointing up because he's in my Brady Bunch up in the corner. Once they've completed the score, they can click on a button that says schedule a meeting with an advisor. And so they push that button, they see my schedule, they pick a time, a date, hit confirm it, and it gets put on their calendar, gets put on mine. Additionally, it also gives them articles because it also reads what, it understands what the challenges are. So it gives them articles to read. But for me as an advisor, or for any of our team who's going to be sitting with a participant, the best part about this is that it is going to streamline a lot of that data for you. So when I sit down with a participant, I have a one-sheeter, let's say, that shows me how they answered their assessments, what their score was. They also identify their top 3 priorities or financial priorities, right? So I have all of this data before they even sit down, which, as you all know, it can take a lot of time to kind of unpack all of this stuff as you're getting to know, trying to figure out how to best support them. So I already have that. So it saves us time. And then there's an action item piece to it. It's gamified, so they get certain points, and there's, a lot of clients use incentives or competitions to help with the engagement, and that has been a huge driver. But they are going to be given an action item, like usually 2 to 3 a quarter, and saying, okay, if it's showing here that your score was really low on personal finance, and you've identified to us that one of your top financial priorities is budgeting. You don't have a budget, so that's going to be one of your action items. I want you to create a budget. They'll send it to me and click complete, and that will change their score. So the whole point of this is, as we go through the year and they complete these action items, their score goes up. And so that's what we're trying to see, based on, on average, it's about a 36, 37, somewhere in that range. Typically, we'll see across the workforce. But we're seeing anywhere from 34, 36% with WellSense, up to, 37 to 38, up to like 78, 79, 80 over a 3-year span. So, I mean, the data is showing us that it's moving the needle. And again, I think it really comes down to the accountability. If someone's got to sit down with me and they don't have, there's a trust and vulnerability there, but once they've sat down and they recognize there's a problem, then we can get to work to really get them on track. And that accountability is a huge piece of it.
Well, you know what's so great about having Holly on this panel as an educator? I don't have to say anything.
We've been talking a lot about this lately.
Right. Yeah, because we're both using WellSense, and many of the things that Holly said, we've experienced over the last 5 or 6 years, because we've had our own financial wellness program that we started ourselves, and so the technology piece that we're adding to this is absolutely fantastic. But the same thing, we'd sit down with a new employee, and 35 or 40 minutes into the conversation, after you get done getting all the information that you need, say, well, okay, it's, we'll talk some more the next time we meet, because we spent all our time getting all that foundational information, and now it's out of the way. They bring it to us. They bring it to us via the assessment and the app or the connection. So it's we're seeing an opportunity for us to be able to expand our abilities with employees. The other thing that's happened is this pandemic has caused so many people, our little panels discussion today, to be able to do things virtually, and it's very accepted. I regularly give people now 3 options. Do you want to talk on the phone? Do you want to do it virtually? Or you want to meet in person? And most people say, well, let's do a Zoom meeting, and that's great, because it's easy for us. It's easy for them. We still kind of get to meet face to face, and have that level of personal interaction. So that's helped us a lot in this area. As bad as the pandemic has been, that's maybe a good offshoot for our industry, or our phase of the industry, that we've gotten. So, but again, I don't want to repeat everything that Holly just said, because we're using the same program, and we're getting the same results, the same opportunity going forward, and we're really excited about it.
All right. So, this is fabulous. I would love to see, all employees everywhere have access to more robust financial planning services, but there's not a whole lot that we can really do to make a difference for employees if we don't have the support of the employers that we're working with. Don, what do you think employers can do to help their employees build solid financial foundations?
I think so many employers don't really have a good solid sense of what kind of shape their employees are in, or what kind of financial shape they're not in, for multiple reasons. Employers don't want that. I talked earlier about this fiduciary responsibility. Well, the employer does not want that. They don't want to make financial recommendations to their employees, because they feel that there's a legal liability there. So they kind of shy away from that. It's incumbent on us to show those employers what it's costing them to have their employees financially ill, for lack of a better term, in a lot of debt, thinking about it at work, doing whatever they need to do. So, it's part of our outreach, not only to the employee, but the employer, to help them understand that they can improve their financial wellness as a company if they can help their employees improve their financial wellness. And in many cases, for years now, we've had agreements with employers where we don't manage their retirement plan, but we do offer them a wellness program that is there for their employees, and they finance it. That's one of the ways for us in the industry to generate revenue, is to have an employee financial wellness program financed by the employer. It takes a huge burden off the employees too, because the employees are naturally a bit skeptical about, some financial advisor coming in. There's got to be a hook here somewhere. They're going to try and sell me something so they can justify their existence. And we tell them all the time, hey, this is paid for by your employer. It's an employer funded benefit. Use it as much as you can, as much as you want to. And we regularly get feedback from the employers, how happy they are with the fact that their employees are engaged. They feel that they're getting results. And the bottom line to that is, I've got a better employee. I've got a happier employee. I've got a more grounded employee, because you've been able to help them in these financial areas of their life, not just their retirement account.
Can I add to that as well? John brought up a lot of fantastic points. When you look at it from a financial perspective, I just read this statistic. I think it was 401k magazine. There's a plug. 401k specialist. It was that I think it's companies they're estimated to be losing $500 billion a year. American companies, $500 billion a year in lost productivity costs. That's like 11 to 14% of total payroll costs. I mean, that should be a number that should be getting people's attention. If, not wanting to, and I don't believe this is true. We don't work with any clients who don't want their employees to be happy or financially stable. But, that number should, kind of wake people up to the need of this. So you asked me earlier, how do we justify the cost of it outside of doing what's the right thing for the employees, which I believe people are doing. Otherwise, why even have a 401k plan? They don't have to have one, or a 403b plan. But the cost that, by not having or not taking the step to really educate, a sustainable education, not just a short-term one, it's gonna be better for them in the long run. It's gonna be better on their bottom line.
Okay, so speaking of employees, this is a question that came in from somebody listening in. So before we move on to the final question, and any one of you can take this. So how do we get employees to take advantage of these services? How do we get employees to want to use that app, to want to schedule an appointment with you, Holly? How do we do that?
So I will say, because that is the hardest part, right? It's like, I kind of feel like if we can get them in the door and we can talk to them, I feel like we can make some progress, but it's getting them in the door. And with competing priorities, with life and everything else, it's hard to do, especially if they're scared and they're stressed out and they just, they're nervous. There's also a lot of shame there, is what I'm finding too. So that vulnerability is a big piece of it. For WellSense, one of the biggest drivers for their engagement rates, and their engagement rates you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it's like 38 to 40% of people are engaging in this program. Right. And that's unheard of with financial wellness. I mean, you look at like some of the big record keepers with their awesome wellness programs, and they've got like single digits. So the biggest driver, incentives. So they do contests, and these are simple. They're not like, big, huge things. It's like a $25 gift card for, registering and answering 4 minutes worth of questions. But that incentive is enough to get them into the process. And once they've gotten into the process, then it's our job to, keep them there. So that's a big one, incentive.
Employer support is huge. There are a level of employees when you introduce any type of wellness program that some say this is the best thing since sliced bread. Some say, yeah, there's a hook, I'm not sure. And some people, I don't need this. And the I don't need this people are the hardest to sell. But the ones in the middle, the ones that, and that's usually the largest group, the ones in the middle are the ones that can be nudged by their peers saying, hey, I had a good experience with this financial advisor. They helped me with my budget or whatever. Or your employer authorizes, your employer is supporting what you're doing and saying, somewhere along the line, well, if they're not trying to get my money and the employer believes in it, then maybe it's worth talking to these people. So we find that there's multiple levels here that will help get employees engaged. But that's the toughest thing to do.
Sure. All right. Well, I want to thank you all again for participating in this discussion today. I really feel like our industry is the one best suited to deliver meaningful and practical solutions that we need if American families are going to find a way out of this paycheck to paycheck existence. So if we don't do this, I fear that it's just not going to get done. If we don't do something, then a financially secure retirement is really only going to be a reality for the 22% of workers who aren't living paycheck to paycheck, right? And we can't be satisfied with that number. We have to do better. So in closing, I'd like to hear from each one of you a suggestion that you have of a change or an initiative or something that we could champion right now to inspire real lasting change. Whoever wants to go first. Ladies first, Holly?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Probably, I want to go first because either Brad or Don will take mine. So I'm going to go. No, I'm just kidding. I would say one of the, actually, this was a really cool thing that I saw happen, and it was organic. It wasn't anything that was planned out, but it was something that really got me thinking about kind of a train the trainer type of program. When we go into companies, we're typically dealing with like the HR team, right? That's usually the ones who are kind of overseeing any kind of financial, anything to do with the retirement plan. But, I think we also know that, the person with CEO behind their name isn't always the most powerful person when it comes to engaging other people, right? So it's like, it could be Sally at the front desk who is just, is always there to support, and people go to that person because that's what they, because they know they're going to get good advice or they're going to help them, support them. I was doing an education meeting for this company, the large biotech company, and it's new, so there wasn't a lot of profit being made just yet, and a very young workforce. The average age was like 24 to 25. Right, so millennials, Gen Zers, they have their own set of challenges, I guess, versus baby boomers and Gen Xers. But what was really fascinating to me is I did one-on-ones after I did my group session, and I think I had maybe 15 people there. And the first girl that sat down with me, she, again, mid-20s, not making a lot of money, but was able to save like $500 to $1,000 a month. And again, not making a lot of money, had no debt, had her goals outlined. I was like, wow, I don't think you need me. Like you're kind of doing what you need to do. And this is great. But what was really cool is she started talking to all of the other women at the location, and they started a group, and they got funding from their HR department to sponsor like a lunch and learn. They bring in somebody financial, somebody from financial services in some degree, to come and talk to them. And every month they would meet. It was, they would have a very structured setting. So it would be like, okay, here's what you said your challenges were last month. What did you do about it? What is your challenges now? Where do you see, what do you see coming up? And then they would just kind of go around and give each other support. And so that first person did that. For the rest of the day, I kept hearing the same thing about this group. And I was thinking, wow, so you've got an internal group here who is advocating for this and helping each other. There's a lot of empowerment there. And when we are strapped to try and connect with as many people as we can, we should be utilizing those internal teams more, because ultimately those are the ones people go to them, right? I mean, I've done tons of education meetings where I'm like, trying to get people just to sign up, just to sign into the 401k. And, it takes Sally at the front desk to say, hey, you need to go meet with Holly. You need to go sign up with that. And people do. And it's only because of her driving that message. They don't know me. They don't trust me. I'm just another soup in their mind. So, but Sally is, someone they trust. And so utilizing those folk within the companies, I think you're going to get a faster push into the engagement piece.
Definitely. Thanks. Don, how about you?
Yeah, I checked just before I came on this afternoon, and we're over 7.5 million people infected in the United States with the coronavirus. But so it's been a big issue, a big part of our lives for this year. But 189 million Americans have credit cards with an average balance of $8,300 on it. I submit that is a much bigger issue than, not physically, but than the coronavirus. Look at the numbers. They dwarf the numbers of the coronavirus. And I think we need to take a responsibility toward those individuals out there. Let's face it, we are the professionals in the room. At least we're supposed to be. And if we're going to do that, then we need to structure whatever kind of wellness program. And I'm very fortunate. I have a whole team of professionals around me. I've got a Social Security specialist and a Medicare specialist and tax specialists, and that are all our company employees, insurance specialists. But if you are, maybe you're a single practitioner, and you don't have all those resources available to you. They're available to you out there. All the vendors that come in your door will be happy. There's a whole bunch of them be happy to do a Social Security presentation with you, or a Medicare presentation with you, or help you support your clients out there, and support those employees, and be creative about it. We continue to do that. We continue to be creative no matter what size the organization is. Brad's organization is very large. Ours is probably mid-size. Holly's is a little smaller than ours, but we all have found a way to make those deliverables. Because what's really important to us is that person on the other end. Again, as I said earlier on, we accept that as our fiduciary responsibility to their lives, not just to their money. So.
Brad?
I would go back to to my experience at 401k, over the last 30 some years. In the beginning, it was taboo to give advice to 401k participants. It was strictly taboo. And today, the most successful 401k advisors are not just giving advice to that investment committee from a fiduciary standpoint, but they're actually out there integrated into the workforce, and we're giving advice. We are. And we're giving advice to how those people are going to attain a successful outcome. And we need to learn from that. We just need to expand our advice that we're giving. I've got about a half dozen clients today that are making financial planning and employee benefit. Every one of them asked whether or not they were taking on additional fiduciary responsibility by Intellicence assuming this role. And I said, yes, you are. But you're just making our current advice better. Because right now we're giving advice on your retirement plan based upon just what we know about what they've got in that plan. And now we can actually give better advice. I've got, of those roughly half dozen clients, I've got 3 of those clients that are paying 100% of our fee. So employers will pay for this. They will. I've got 3 that are paying 100% of that fee. I've got others that are paying for us to come out and do group meetings. And we have to do group meetings on other things besides retirement readiness when we're doing this. And they're paying for that, but then we're giving them discounts on our financial planning fees because they're in effect endorsing that service from us. And they're payroll deducting that. Or they're paying a part of it. We just had a 400 life ag group in southeastern Minnesota. And of our per plan fee. The employer's paying 60%. The employee is paying 40%, payroll deducted on an after-tax basis. You'll be surprised at the number of employers that are interested in this. If you haven't seen the new Bank of America survey I just saw it yesterday. It's coming out, and it is saying that the most valuable thing that plan participants want today is through their employer, is access to an advisor that they trust and will give them advice. Fidelity just came out with a survey that basically said, it used to say that we were being hired just to keep the fiduciary issues away from the plan. But now they're looking at us to come up with solutions on how to solve these issues for their workforce. I believe that financial planning, I'm going to make a prediction, financial planning will be the next big thing in employee benefits because it's needed. It's desperately needed. The upper management of every employer is already taken care of. The private wealth people have taken care of those people. The 99% are being ignored, and they are the ones that desperately need this. Will every employer say, well, I'm going to take that obligation on? No, they won't. But the best employers, they will, because they know that their most valuable asset is their workforce. And Don and Holly are 100% right. There are hidden costs associated with financial stress. And the number one form of stress today that's impacting the cost of a health plan, for example, is financial stress. So I would challenge all of us that collectively, if we go out and we deliver this message and we deliver the people plus the technology to be able to deliver on this, that we will truly move the dial in these financial wellness programs that, frankly, aren't doing anything that are attached to a record keeper right now. Because as Holly pointed out, there's no, and Don, there is no accountability. There. That's the missing piece.
And to piggyback on what Brad's saying, I think as the workforce is shifting from a generational perspective, baby boomers are shifting out. You've got millennials, Gen Zs coming in. They're 2/3 bigger than the baby boomers are. They want something different. So I think they're going to be asking for that as well. So when you're looking at retaining or recruiting the best talent for your company, one day it's going to be one of those things. Do you have a financial advisor on staff? Like, is there a financial wellness? What does that look like? Because that'll be a deciding factor for a lot of people, especially the younger folks, because they want it.
Fantastic. All right. Holly, Brad, Don, thank you so much for sharing not only your thoughts, but your passion with us today. Thanks to the team also at Advisor 2X for inviting us to have this discussion. To all of you who tuned in live, thank you for spending this hour with us. And if you're watching us down the road on replay, right on, we're happy to have you. We hope that this conversation today is just the start of many conversations to come around this issue. One advisor, one firm, one record keeper cannot do this alone. And really, there's no one-size-fits-all solution either. We need many solutions designed to meet people where they are right now to help get them where they want to go. And this can only happen if we all agree that this is a problem worth solving and if we work together to do so. There is no collection of people better suited to help our neighbors get on the path towards financial security than the men and women in this industry. And friends, we are honored to work alongside of you in this endeavor. Be safe, be well, and be good to one another. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.